You're listening to a Meatsmith Harvest. This is the podcast that encourages and equips you to grow your home around the harvest. Hello, Brandon.
Good morning.
Good morning, Meatsmiths, or afternoon, or evening, wherever you might be in your day when you're hearing this. We are on episode 14.
Oh, good for us.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about pig slaughter. Oh, and Therese might have some interjections. But pig slaughtering, the pig kill, if you will. There's so much to talk about that. Long-standing tradition behind it. And we're just going to scratch the surface here with you on that topic. But of course, before then, I have a few little announcements. I really wanted to tell you about membership. I know I pretty much talk about it every episode, but it's open. Registration is open right now. I'm looking up there. We moved our camera. I keep looking up where the camera used to be. Sorry. Okay, take two. No, really. We have membership registration is open right now. And you should sign up if you've been enjoying the content you've been getting here or elsewhere. If you've come to a class and you just would love some follow-up education to keep your skills sharpened.
Or meet people in your area who are pursuing similar things.
Right.
You want to know how to cure things in your region. Because it also, the membership is a community of other meatsmiths.
Yeah. We've got people there that have been there for a full year now, and they've honed their skill set quite a bit. In fact, we're doing a class with a member right now, or we've got one scheduled in October on the docket. So if you want to meet a member and see what it's like, you can head on over to Minnesota in a few months and meet other members that might be there. I wanted to say also with membership, there's a couple different options right now. We have the monthly option, so you pay, I think it's $11.49 a month, plus a small sign-up fee for all the content that we've accumulated there over the last year. So there's that option.
Which is like how many videos now? I mean, it's way over 12.
12 or 13. Oh yeah, some months I posted 2.
Yeah.
So
and there's everything in there from making sausage to brining hams to... We just recorded one on skinning ruminants, skinning a sheep.
Mm-hmm. Fencing pigs.
Barbecuing
rabbits.
And it's all with regard to the scale of a backyard.
Right.
Or just a domestic setting, which is kind of different. Even than the more, there's lots of advice, new agrarian advice out there, but it's even that stuff, which is awesome, is geared towards farmers. And I don't really consider myself a farmer, Mm-hmm. I mean, I am a butcher. I have like 85 ducks right now and 5 pigs and 2 cats and 6 children. But I'm not really selling the produce of my land as a means of generating our income.
Right. It's for our own consumption.
It's for our own consumption. And that really changes things. And a lot of that has to do with scale. We just have 2.5 acres. And which means like the whole extensive pasture rotation is limited by the size of my herds and the size of my pastures. And so there's just a whole different concept. And it's also, we have to think of growing our own food and harvesting it and curing it and preparing it not as your primary occupation throughout the day. So you probably have a job and you can't be moving sheep fence all over your property every 2 days to make sure that they are grazing properly. So there's just a whole different way to approach domestic economy. And that's kind of what the Meatsmith membership is geared towards. But not leaving anything out. It's not like, oh no, you are just a householder, so you don't get to do the real cool stuff like kill your pig or make bacon or hatch your own, Muscovy ducklings or anything like that. That is actually all the prowess of the barnyard or the backyard and the home cook.
Right. So we want to make it super accessible for you, both in content and also in price. So we've got the monthly option. We've also got a yearly option. And if you go the yearly option, you can bypass the sign-up fee, and you just get everything all for one price. And I think we even took off a month or so of... It was a discount of a month or two. I can't remember how I did it. It was a percentage or what, but you get a little bit off for signing up for a year, and you bypass the sign-up fee. So we want to make it super doable, and we think it is in the right price range. And also, there's no contracts. There's no, like, you don't have to commit for a certain amount of years. In fact, we do have some people that sign up for a year, and then life circumstances change, and then they have to bow out, and they're like, well, we can't wait to come back. So it's however much you can commit. In fact, I have a testimonial here from one such person, and I wanted to share it because he was here with us he accumulated like all his skills, and now he's going to go do them, and he's scaling back on his costs right now, so he's got to drop the membership, but he's hoping to come back again in the future. But anyway, here's a testimonial from Chris in Georgia. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed all the content you guys have released and how grateful I am for all the hand-holding via Facebook on my first dry cure bacon endeavor. I never even got around to watching all the live chats and the most recent handful of Harvest films, which I'm going to try and power through and digest before my access is closed. Ever since watching Anatomy of Thrift years ago, the film series that we've got available on our website right now.
For free.
I dreamed of bacon hanging in my kitchen, and your personal encouragement, attention, and advice made that possible. I look forward to joining again in the future when circumstances permit, perhaps when I have a hog or two on the pasture and need yet more coaching. Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for enlightening and empowering your audience to kick fear to the side and just do it. Thank you so much, Chris. That was such a powerful testimonial, and I actually like that last statement the best. I think that's what we do. We try to encourage people to kick fear to the side and just start going for it, because that's ultimately your best teacher. Is experience.
Yeah, and to kick fear aside with the boot of knowledge. And historical context, because really all of this stuff is more at home in the home kitchen. That's where it happens. I love reading stories about, the barnyard flock, and in certain places in France, where foie gras is not just a primary gourmet product, but actually has a long cultural history. Just the housewife would have, that was her realm. She would have like 6 geese that she would raise every year. And when the crop of corn and grain that she was feeding them would kind of come into harvest, she would put them in the barn, and she would feed them heavily on corn. And their livers would get humongous, like up to 4 pounds. And then she would she would slaughter her own geese, which by that time are like 30, 40 pounds, big animals. And she would bring them to the market, and she would sell them for good money, because foie gras is not a cheap thing, and that was part of one tiny part of the domestic economy. And so you have this incredibly haute cuisine item, foie gras, that has these very humble peasant origins, and that is kind of the bedrock, is the domestic economy. That's the foundation of all these fancy things that we start and enjoy. Yeah.
I'm excited to actually talk about what we're going to talk about today. That's a great segue, because the pig killing is such a peasant event. And I mean peasant in the sense of just being grounded to the earth, to the things that come from the soil and your good management of land, and it roots you there.
Yeah, and so we definitely have a very lofty view of peasant labor and peasant work. Yeah. And that's kind of the style or the scale. It's the human scale that informs the Meatsmith membership. And it is time, if you want, you can sign up for that now. And the way to do it is to go to farmsteadmeatsmith.com/membership.
That's right. Getting good.
Yeah. And and like, there's a whole bunch of stuff up there already. We do monthly live chats. In addition, I create monthly videos, and we just got a new filmmaker. So and he's got some crazy awesome kit, and that is really going to advance the quality and the quantity of our videos.
That's right.
And then I write a harvest journal, and there's an online forum, which is almost already encyclopedic, and it's really excellent. And it's where we can post things that require a little more paragraph elaboration than Facebook would allow, which is another element, the Facebook private group that is the Meatsmith table that you become a member of if you take a hands-on class with us or become a Meatsmith member.
And I should also mention we are closing the membership registration on August 20th, actually through August 20th, and then we'll be closing it at the end of that day. So try to get in while you can. The reason why we do that is so that in our off registration periods, we can just focus on delivering content. I think we can do a much better job than doing that and juggling advertising and all that. So get in before August 20th, and hopefully we'll see you inside. And then I also wanted to mention classes again.
Right.
We've talked about it before, but we still have quite a bit of room, actually. Quite a bit of room. Actually, I changed our dates for a number of reasons, but there's a November and now a December pig harvest date. So actually, the pig slaughter that we're talking about today it's a very condensed form of what you can experience in the classes. It's the very first day of our 3-day family pig course. And it's just amazing if you can come. I highly recommend it because you get your hands dirty, you get your hands messy in the best sense, and then you have a meal afterward of the fruit of your labor, and you actually are doing the things that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah,
so keep that in mind as you listen.
I just pull the trigger.
That's it.
On 2 pigs, and then we keep the classes small, no more than 8 in the case of a hands-on class. And they're actually hands-on. Like officially, truly. You do everything after I pull the trigger. And I'll stick the pig. And then you guys scrape and scald and eviscerate. Harvest offal. We cook offal. We we make bacon. We make sausage. We do the whole thing. All in 3 days, because the whole thing is actually intelligible and it can fit in your brain. It's a narrative. And once you kind of get to witness it and experience it as a continuous narrative, you can remember it and you can utilize it. It's actionable knowledge. And it's different than, because today that whole process is so fragmented, if it's anything. And we have batched each process. And it has created a degree of efficiency that, of course, has compromised the quality. But, it's all been separated. Such that the people that are doing the killing never see the people that are doing the cutting or the curing or the cooking or the transporting, for that matter. And so the whole thing is a fragmented experience. And it's nice and very practical to restore it to a holistic, as a whole, as a context. Because all that fragmentation gives you the impression that it is too complex.
Right.
For the normal human being.
Right.
But it's not. Particularly with pork, which, beef is a little different because it's a huge animal. But even that, taken as a whole, can fit in your mind. But especially with pork, which is the prowess of people that don't have vast pastures.
Yeah.
But they do have backyards and food waste. And so they can raise pigs. And the pig slaughter has always been the home kill.
That's true.
That's actually the norm. And it's recently become the centralized behemoth of the Fortis slaughter line.
And educationally, you can't really get this in this part of the process as a class form, I don't think, anywhere in the country.
Right.
Because you can go to other operations and get some of the butchery or maybe curing information. And even then, I would argue ours is still unique. But the slaughter, it doesn't exist. And so I think people come to the class, actually, and after the very first day, they're like, I already got my money's worth. That was it. Like
they go home and do it.
That's the missing link for a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay, so
right.
Needless to say, we're huge fans of our classes.
It is our cherry on top.
Yeah, it's our magnum opus.
Yeah.
It kind of is. And we have one happening in Minnesota that is a slightly abridged form, right? It's a single day.
It's a single day.
And we're still going to actually kind of fit everything in.
Yeah. Well, I think he's slaughtering it ahead of time.
Oh, right. He's
with
doing
our
the slaughter.
guidance. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And he's a Meatsmith member, and so he knows how to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you'll see, we love to talk about the slaughter as a culinary step. And so he will be processing it with that in mind.
Yeah.
That
a culinary step at the very least.
Right. Okay, so let's stop with the announcements because that's a great segue. Let's talk about the pig slaughter and why it's so important to get it right as you prepare for what most people think are the more important parts, like the butchery and the curing, but actually so much hangs on the quality of the slaughter, the kill, the harvesting.
Well, you can't really know it until you experience a mere attempt at a kill.
Okay.
I was going to say a bad kill, but a kill is a kill. If the pig is instantly dead, that is a good. That is an end devoutly to be wished. Mm-hmm. But if it is merely an attempt and an unsuccessful one, I can describe to you how horrible that is, but really, you must experience it. And I think that, not to go too deep right up, but that is the weight. That is the weight of killing any animal that you assume. And it's a responsibility that you take on. And unless you are going to kind of indulge in a little bit of I don't know, what would it be? Overconfidence, maybe as a result of arrogance, maybe as a result of ignorance, probably most likely just inexperience. You think, as long as I do everything right, the pig will die seamlessly, soundlessly.
Death is death, right?
And it will be lights out and will be as painful as painless as possible.
Right.
But unfortunately, the reality of the situation is that situations go wrongly sometimes. And it's nice to be open to that possibility. In fact, I think it's realistic. And so, unfortunately, the axiom is the best way to learn how to shoot a pig only once is to have to shoot it twice.
Okay.
Because I can tell you how horrible it is for the first shot to be bad, but until you experience it, you just don't feel the weight of that and how bad it is. And there is a very pragmatic element to it too. The only thing that's harder than shooting a pig once is shooting it only twice.
Right.
So it's much easier just to get the first shot properly. So I guess we'll start with the kill. Is what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
We can go through the narrative.
Let me see too, because we don't want to sound too draconian. I mean, the reason why you know this is because there have been just a couple that have gone wrong.
Yeah.
And we can talk about those too, because they're fun. We've grown and we've learned from them.
Yeah.
To make you even better. To achieve excellence, you have to make a few errors, but to keep in mind too, like being encouraged, because I love that saying that you have only. Who as shoots him can miss him. Only those who... How does it go?
Only those who shoots him can miss him.
Right.
And it's something I stole, like anything intelligent that I say, from
Well, you adapted.
I adapted, yeah. What was it?
James
You know,
Harriet.
it is from James Harriet. It's a rule of all farming. And we have friends that have illustrated this, but he was speaking of it telling the story of a farmer, I think a dairy farmer, who through, multiple generations of breeding or either through a large output of capital had purchased the marvelous milking cow, like had purchased the perfect milking cow, and didn't have her long. And it was really compounded. Like whenever you, especially as a dairyman, you get the perfect dairy goat or the perfect dairy cow, you want them to be the foundation of your stock, of your herd. You're going to take every single heifer from that cow or that goat or doe, and that's going to be your new herd. And so when that one dies, it's not just a loss of a good cow and a good producer and a healthy cow. It's really the end of a herd.
Yeah, a line.
Of a line. And it's a huge loss, particularly since your whole idea of a herd is so particular to you and hard won over years of planning. So one of the sayings of the farmers in the pseudonymous or the eponymous author James Harriet, their saying in Yorkshire was, "Only them as has 'em can lose 'em." And there is an inherent risk to pursuing perfection, and that is that it will be thwarted. And so all of that to say, I like that philosophy when it applies to pig killing, because while we do everything we can to make the death go well and to avoid suffering and to just keep that at bay as much as possible, only them as shoots him can miss him. So if you dare to shoot a pig in the head, you are also daring the universe to get in the way and that you will miss.
Well, and that separates you from all the people that won't step up and shoot
Right,
them.
yes. The comfortable critic can easily deride your pig shooting abilities,
Right.
but until they have attempted such a thing, they really don't have much basis. And I should say also that I do make it extra hard because we have scruples, and one of them is that all of the pig, as much as possible, should be turned into food, including the head. And that's why I think of the gun itself as the rifle that I deliver the death with. I think of that as a culinary instrument, not a imprecise bludgeoning instrument. So you could shoot a pig more easily with a large round, right? And that would kill the pig indeed. And in some, depending on the size of the round, you could shoot a pig in the head in the most general sense, and at the very least completely knock it out just through the trauma of the bullet. And so a lot of guys will use a 223 round, which is a shouldered cartridge. It's got lots of power. It breaks the sound barrier, I'm pretty sure, out of a normal gun. So it's really loud. It's really high velocity. And if you shoot a pig in the head with that thing, like, even if you miss the brain, you're going to fracture the skull completely in many places, which will completely incapacitate the pig. But it also means your head cheese is off the cards, mostly.
Or even using a lot of the head for
like
stock.
guanciale, yeah. And it depends. It's situational, but, with the fragmenting of a skull, you get bone fragments shot everywhere. You get bloodshot meat, huge veins of blood all throughout the head. And so it really destroys the culinary value. But if you use a 22 Magnum, which is what I recommend, and that is what I use, or a 22 WMR, that is a precision instrument. But the trade-off is you must hit the brain. And I would say that is one of the commonest errors when it comes to pig killing, is shooting the pig in the head. No, don't shoot the pig in the head. Pig has a big head. Shoot the pig in the brain. And people ask me, is the pig knocked out or is it dead? And the answer is yes. They're not recovering from a bullet to the brain. They're very dead. And insofar as you are unconscious when you're dead, that's what happens when you shoot a pig in the brain. And it's, for that reason, a precision instrument, which means your target is about the size of a golf ball. which, if you're close, is not that small. The problem is that a pig's head is a moving target. Pigs, more than any other livestock. Cows are probably the easiest to kill because they hold still. And even at their fastest, let's face it, cows are slow-moving, lumbering beasts. You can pick the most commodious spot on the fence line and just rest your rifle, and provided the cow isn't too far away, they will just face you and they will hold perfectly still. A pig is going to be wondering, why don't you bring breakfast? They're going to be kind of yelling at you, vocalizing, going back and forth along the fence line, like, what's going on? Once they get bored of you and notice that you haven't brought breakfast, they're just going to start rooting, There's very few things in a pig's daily schedule that involves the stillness of its head, which is your target. So all of those things make the shot particularly difficult, because I know that there's lots of cases wherein you could say, well, it's actually no problem, but you just shoot the pig in the head. I just get my hunting rifle out. It's like, well, yeah, but let's assume some of the scruples that you might put upon yourself. Smallest round possible, complete holistic harvest, and one death per bullet, an absolute unquestionable kill shot. And when you take on those burdens, then the kill is actually quite tricky. And I would say it is the trickiest of all livestock that you would dare to harvest.
Okay.
The shooting of a pig. It requires, it's not the trickiest. I would say it requires the most patience, the most self-possession.
Right.
Because I know I'm going to say this so many times, the commonest mistake, the most often. But it does all kind of boil down to, I think, the motive, which is impatience.
Okay.
You would feel like it's taking too long. But, why? What's taking too long? It's helpful to interrogate that a little bit. You would feel pressure. If you draw a bead on a pig, you've come up to the fence line, and the pig isn't holding still. You keep putting your iron sights on your target, but it keeps moving, and it just keeps not presenting itself. The opportunity is presenting itself. For some reason, we get impatient with that, even though it's totally nonsensical. I mean, there is a general sense of like efficiency and getting on with the day, but there's no deadline.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
You just need to take your time. And technically, once you rid yourself of that pestering obligation to squeeze that trigger, for no particular reason, now rather than later, then you have the peace of mind to only, provided by the conviction to only shoot when it's perfect.
Right.
That was a lot of clauses, but you know what I mean.
Well, all that to say, I mean, we're trying to make it is difficult, but ultimately it opens you up to a much smoother process later.
It does.
From not killing twice or 3 times or 4 times.
Right.
And also to be able to use the whole head. So it's like you're front loading the difficulty.
Yeah.
At that moment.
It is a bit of a bottleneck.
In order to open you up to some smoother moments later. So it's kind of a trade-off.
Like the whole day. Yeah,
to which is important.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work ahead of you. You want to be happy while you do it.
Right. If you love your pig, which if you're raising it, it's hard not to love your pig. They are intelligent, charming animals, and they have individuality. So if you have to shoot your pig a couple of times, you're going to feel like, a horrible human all day as you continue processing the pig, no doubt. But there is, when I say it's the only thing more difficult than shooting a pig once is shooting it only twice, I mean that the disaster of that could result as a result of missing that first shot is incalculable. So, but sometimes it's nothing. It's very interesting. But if you hit a pig, it still has enough wits about it, but it's not dead. It's gonna head for the horizon, and all that fencing,
screaming all the way.
Yeah, and those barriers that you thought were barriers they're nothing. They're nothing to a 300-pound quadruped tank, And so they can bolt for the horizon. So one possibility is they're just gone.
All the hard work.
Yeah. So now technically I've never had that really happen,
Yeah.
you know, and I've probably missed, man, in 10 years, 8 times or so,
Okay.
and hunt thousands of pigs,
Yeah.
which is too many, you know, but,
Well, and so we've got some funny stories because of it.
yeah, well, funny for some of us,
I'm sorry.
but
I mean, they were hard moments.
Yeah.
I mean, you were like, you've been dragged by a pig before. Like, hang on. And, you know, as it was heading for that one time at Roseballon.
oh, in front of a whole class? Oh,
Yeah.
Really?
That's what happened, right? It was dragging you like 30 feet or so.
I think I have cathartically removed it from
Maybe.
my memory. Well, one exception. So all of that to say, like the spectacle that results from a missed shot is so worth the extra patience to wait for the perfect opportunity. So as a practical note, there are 3 times in a pig's daily schedule wherein it is holding still, sleeping, drinking, and urinating.
Right.
For some reason, they don't move their heads during all 3 of those activities. The one that you control is thirst, usually. You can't
Right.
tell when a pig has to pee, usually in the morning.
Yeah.
Midday, they tend to just be zonked out. They're asleep, so you can use those opportunities. But really, you can deny them water from the day before. And I would say this is a great strategy.
Right.
And then you fill a bowl, so obviously not a nipple, you know, but a bowl of water all the way to the brim. And they go down and they drink. And they hold perfectly still. They don't lap like a dog. They slurp. And they give you the target, which is 2.5 to 3 inches above the level of the eyes. It's not right between the eyes. No brains there. It's up here. It's forehead, decisively forehead. And you don't have to be exactly in the center, but you have to be within a golf ball of the center. So one crazy thing that has happened to me, I missed a pig once and nothing happened. That was very strange.
Okay.
And it was when, at the beginning, I was using a 22 long rifle.
Okay.
So now I use a 22 WMR,
Right.
which is much more powder and much more velocity. And the long rifle is a tinier casing. And I think that the actual projectile is just a little bit tinier, even though it might not look like it. I don't know. They both say .22, so I don't know. All I know is you can't shoot a long rifle out of a WMR unless it has an interchangeable rotary doodly bob and it's a handgun. Anyway, this was in Florida. I did a class, and they could, you know, whenever I do a class remotely, I guess I could travel with my rifle. I just haven't really tackled that one yet. And so I asked for them to supply it, the farmer. And I was going to teach this farm how to harvest their own pigs. And I lined up the shot, and the pig was eating at the time, which is a relatively still head. You know, it's in a bowl. You know the vicinity in which the pig's head will be. You can bracket its movements to the circumference of the bowl, but it's moving within that. And I took the shot with the 22 long rifle, and the pig looked up and then just went right back down to eating. And I most definitely hit it in the head. And it gives you a sense of just how considerable an implement the skull of a pig is. It is thick. It is a major, major apparatus. And the pig was not even phased. Not even phased. It went back to eating.
Okay.
And then I shot it again, and it went right down.
So how did that... What did you learn from that?
So, and this has only happened to me one other time.
Okay.
What I'm about to describe, not the part where they don't notice. And that is the first shot was perfect.
Okay.
It was exactly on target, 2.5 to 3 inches above the level of the eyes, right in the middle.
Yeah.
And it didn't penetrate. And I only know that from splitting the head afterwise, you know, and looking at the trauma caused by the 2 bullets, and one of them did not go. It didn't make it through the skull, and confirming my later upgrade to a 22 WMR. Now, I've even had the 22 WMR not penetrate.
Wow.
And that's when for a while, it was really hard to get ammo. And during that time, I was kind of stuck with hollow points.
Okay.
which I knew, like, gosh, this is just a little risky because of what hollow points do. You know, they mushroom, they expand upon impact. And it was a pig on Vashon in front of a whole class. So that was great. That was really good for my pride. And I shot the pig, and it was dead on. The pig was laying down, like almost asleep, holding perfectly still. And so I knew right after I pulled the trigger and noticed that it was unsuccessful that I know I hit it right.
Yeah.
I know I did because he was holding perfectly still. You never miss when a pig is laying down.
Okay.
And I was real close.
Right.
But so the pig got up, yelled at me, and then just ran away in front of a whole class. So that was awesome.
Yeah.
And
you tend to miss most in those situations.
yeah, when I have an audience.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's a built-in a built-in humbling mechanism.
Yeah.
Because usually it's preceded by a long spiel about the importance of the single shot.
What we're doing right now. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And then I miss, and I show them exactly how not to do it.
Yeah.
But in this case, I didn't miss, and it's because it was, even though it was a 22 WMR, it was a hollow point, and so now, and I guess I've always known this. It was just during that limited availability of ammo, but I use jacketed hollow points.
Okay.
The idea being that it's kind of a compromise between the full metal jacket, which you will usually likely find in the shoulder, like in the Boston butt, or frequently with the trajectory that I'm going to tell you to use, you'll find it in the spinal cord, in the spine. But the jacketed hollow point goes further. You get deeper penetration. So you definitely hit the brain. But the full metal jacket will do that. The jacketed hollow point, I think, in my experience, it retains enough structure to blast through what can be 3/4 of an inch of skull.
Okay.
And then it mushrooms and splits usually into 2 or sometimes 3 parts within the brain cavity of said pig. And so all that to say, 22 WMR, jacketed hollow points. And I have a bolt action. It's a Savage. It's the most affordable 22 WMR that showed up that day at Cabela's when I got it. And I have abused it in every possible conceivable manner. It is filthy. It's been washed once in the 5 years that I've been using it, or more, 6, 7. And it was oiled once, which is reprehensible. I know. I'm sorry. And I need to stop that. But I do run a what's it called? A rifle snake. It's basically cloth with a little brass knob at the end that gravity will pull down through the barrel, and then I can draw the rest of the thicker cloth through it, and it dusts out the barrel. So it really just cleans the barrel. But, you know, I've had pigs in their death throes kick mud on it and all kinds of stuff. And it's really dependable, and it works well. Granted, I'm not taking long shots.
Tell us about, since we're talking about stories, tell us about the one, I think, again, in front of a class in Oregon, when you hit it dead on, but there was an earlobe in the way because you were doing, was it large blacks maybe?
Well, it was, I actually had I had newly purchased my 22 WMR.
Okay.
So I had undue confidence in its ballistic capacity.
Okay.
And fortunately, in that class, I had a retired investigator who was attending the class.
Ballistics.
Whose particular specialty was internal ballistics.
Okay.
That's why I know I overestimated the ballistic capacity of my 22 WMR. And there are pigs that have lop ears. So old spots, large blacks, and crosses, you know, thereof will sometimes the ears will be loppy, which means they hang down over your target, sometimes precisely to an annoyingly precise, perfect degree they cover your target. And I thought with my 22 WMR that I could shoot right through them floppy little cartilaginous ears, no problem.
Bullets go through things, right?
Yeah. So that was my assumption, which is wrong. Bullets seek the path of least resistance, like all the things in a physical universe.
Okay.
And as far as I know. And so it was immediately, you know, sapped of its velocity and misdirected right when it goes through the ear, and it was bad news. And so that pig took another shot. So don't shoot through the ear. But what should you do? Let's say if you do have a pig with lop ears, well, the strategy I have utilized is to, you have to elevate the head. And sometimes all that means is like making a mountain of some kind, a little mound, sometimes a compost pile right in there with the pigs, or
putting the water bowl
cinder blocks,
okay.
Putting the water basin upside down, put food on top of it. I do that a lot, actually. I turn food bowls upside down and I put food on top.
Or
so
water,
that the
right?
Yeah, so that the feed or water is elevated, which thereby elevates the head.
Yeah. Kind of
And that will part the ears. That slight change in angle will part the ears. Also, it makes your trajectory a little easier. So the trajectory that I talk about is perpendicular to the forehead. Mm-hmm. And this is all assuming you're going for a forehead shot. You can do it behind the head, which we'll talk about. But it has to be perpendicular. So if you think of the angle of the forehead, your shot has to be at right angles to that, the path of the bullet. Otherwise, you're going to hit down in the sinus and miss brain entirely.
Right.
Unlikely that you're going to go too high, because you'd actually have to be lower than the pig. But so usually when I'm shooting a pig and its head is down in a water bowl slurping slowly and placidly, I am like almost sitting on my butt.
Almost like sniper.
Yeah,
like
I am way down,
yeah.
way down on the level of the pig, squatting way down, low. So if you can elevate that head, you might not have to squat. And if you're standing in a blackberry thicket, you're probably not going to want to squat. And that happens sometimes, you know, it just depends on where you are. And sometimes it's nice to elevate that head.
World War II styles, like on your elbows, like you're going through barbed wire or something to get to these pigs that were sleeping under a blackberry bush.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they're just not going to come out because it's cool where they are. And they're like, food, water, don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stay in here in the middle of Mirkwood Forest, and you have to crawl in and get me. And so that's why I frequently, for years, I wore tin cloth pants, because I was on my hands and knees and brambles. Now there is also, and it was so cool, another fun experience. I learned all of this through trial and error, by the way. That's how all of this is learned. Yep. It is in the doing that you learn the don'ting. And you get better and better at your doing. And so I did this one, I slaughtered a couple pigs for this really wonderful couple, Gig Harbor. And it was one of those cases where these were gloriously pampered pigs, which I love. You know, it's so cool. You know, like it looks like she might have shampooed their hair every once in a while. And sometimes I'll bring that up just to be like, I guess I really want a farmer to tell me, yeah, I do. I actually wash my pigs. I condition them.
Well, we know one who has for sure.
Really?
Yeah, on island here. I don't know how to say her name.
No, she doesn't.
I thought she did.
No, because see, what I do is I try to find out the backhanded way, which is probably not right, but I'll be like, wow, they look like they've been conditioned.
And then you leave a long, silent, awkward pause.
And no one has ever said, well, yeah, I do actually. Even though, like, just glistening coats, you know, beautiful, gorgeous, healthy. So
usually
pigs,
it's a result of diet, actually.
It is,
like that one customer feeds her pigs like olive oil or something.
Well, no, and like pressed grapes.
Right, that's true. Right.
After making wine, you know, and there's going to be some oil extraction there, and or you know, just healthy pigs, healthy clean pigs will have oily, shiny, beautiful, shimmery coats. So these couple pigs were that way, and I showed up that day, and they actually wanted me to teach them how to do the whole thing. So it was a private. And we went through the whole thing together. And it was so cool because she had contained them in a very tiny room, basically, off the side of the garage, if I remember correctly. And it was tiny. And it was walled in on all four sides with I guess they call it a Dutch door. Okay. Which is what we call anything that we don't know what else to call it. We call it Dutch, like Dutch oven or Dutch door. It's such a weird whatever. But, you know, so it opened on top and on bottom, and it was split in the middle. And the bottom was solid. And why that matters is that usually I'm shooting, you know, on the other side of electric wire, which I can obviously shoot through, or a hog panel, which has nice big holes that I can shoot through. But if it's a solid walled structure, I can only stand above it and shoot down, especially if the space is tiny. I can't even fit in there, you know, with my gun and kneeling down, and then plus the whole length of the pig. So that was this situation. It was tight, and the second pig just was not giving us a target. I was able to sneak one off the first kill pretty good. And she was full of hopeful enthusiasm, which I think is her personality.
Yeah.
And so she was like, why don't you try from the back of the head? And, you know, when I'm on a job, I like to keep things, I'm really conscientious, so I like things to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And especially, I'm not going to experiment with someone else's pigs.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I might experiment with mine, you know, new techniques, new shooting angles, whatever. But not on someone else's. I just thought it was so generous of her to say, try this on mine.
Yeah.
You
Knowing
know?
full well that
It could go wrong. Again,
yeah.
only though she was taking on, sharing that responsibility of those who shoots them can miss them. Which I thought was winsome of her. And so I did. And this pig was laying down in the corner. And I aimed from behind. And I shot basically from behind the ear. Because, you know, there's no back of the head to a pig. The back of the head of a pig is its ass. It's the hams.
Yeah.
Just the way a pig is shaped.
Right.
So what you actually end up doing is shooting behind the ear.
Okay.
So you are still standing like it's more at, you're standing at like 7 o'clock or 7:30.
Okay.
Maybe 8 o'clock. And the idea at the back end of the pig is that the bullet, you know, it goes from the back side of the skull and then penetrates through the brain almost to the opposite eye, which is kind of what you're aiming for.
So like behind one ear?
Yes.
Okay.
To the opposite eye.
Okay.
Yeah, so what you're aiming for.
I think I can envision that.
Yeah. And it works excellent.
Wow.
Of course, you know, it is thin enough there. And I've done it a couple times, you know, when situations require it. You just can't get that frontal.
Sure.
Sometimes pigs are so antsy-pantsy that they will not face you. And that is just temperament, you know. Some pigs just have that temperament where they are always going to be staring at you out of the side of their head. I don't know if they have binocular vision, but they like to keep one eye on you, which means they're always looking at you from the side, and they just won't face you. But they still want to stare at you. They need to keep an eye on you. They won't ignore you and start to eat or drink.
Yeah.
And in those cases, that behind the ear thing is nice.
Yeah.
So that is also a possibility.
Yeah.
That kind of shot.
Okay. You've talked about this before, but maybe give us a little short rundown. The way that you can avoid that antsy-pantsy pig is by maybe doing him first when he's most comfortable, which is when he's surrounded by his buddies. He's definitely not the most comfortable, like big guy in charge.
Yeah.
You know?
And I know we have talked about that too, about the number one rule. Okay, number two. I guess number one is patience. Number two is keeping the peace.
Okay. Right.
And key to the peace is the posse, is the group of pigs. So don't separate the pig out that you want to kill. Keep them with their sounder.
Right.
Because the other pigs are the source of their well-being and their peace. They don't actually fear death, they fear separation.
Right.
They won't understand if you try to separate them. They'll yell at each other. You know, the pig being separated will scream for the pigs that are still together. We don't understand why this is happening. You know, they don't like it. And they will be more agitated. Whereas if you shoot one pig, you know, standing right next to and touching its buddies, they might jump a little bit at the rifle report, but not at the death. And I don't even like to shoo them away. So the pig you shoot will go down, and then they'll do their laughy grunt, you know,
right.
And they'll explore, you know, they'll sniff. They will kind of they'll confirm death, they'll confirm the kill, and then rearrange their hierarchy accordingly to fill the spot that was vacated.
Early on, we had a few customers, or maybe just friends and neighbors, that they were concerned for us, and they were like, why don't you do the humane thing and separate this pig, right? Because that seems, from our perspective, humane. because if we see someone with blood, we might freak out, or there might be some people that would. And so they're like, you have to separate the pig, but that's actually not honoring the nature of the pig.
Right.
They, like you said, they only understand the sounder.
Yeah.
And so actually the best thing to do is to keep them with their herd.
Yeah.
That will keep them just happier till the very end.
It will.
It'll make it easier for you. And you're also, you say sometimes in classes that we often underestimate the pig's intelligence, often by overestimating its humanity.
Yeah.
And so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I think, that's part of the reason why pigs are so amicable and easy to domesticate, historically at least, because they are social eaters. So the first thing they do when they breach mama's body and they come out is they stay next to her body the whole time, touching it.
Right.
They feel their way to her dugs, which is pig for nipples.
Okay.
And they march all the way up the line and they pick a nipple and they stick with it.
Right.
And then their sister or brother does the exact same thing and lands right next to or under, under them. And so what they experience from the beginning is physical touch during eating.
Okay.
That's
that
it.
makes sense.
And same thing with dogs.
Exactly.
So,
right. Whereas horses or other animals, they're not quite so.
At least
dependent.
an old theory.
Okay.
For some reason, I only read outdated natural history books. They're so interesting because they have this undisguised element of narrative, which I appreciate. It's like poetic natural history. But one, I don't even know if this is still a theory, but one theory is that because of that, pups and piglets, right after birth, are easier to domesticate because they don't feel like you are killing them if you touch them. Now, I know all of you are saying, hey, I've picked up pig wieners before, and when I pick them up at the farm and put them in my crate and take them home, they scream as if their soul is fragmenting into molecular ether. And it's so bone-shattering loud.
It really is.
But I really think that's acquired. That's
Okay.
like, you're picking those pigs up at 2 months.
Yeah.
But right away, I think that they will scream at first because, not because they're being touched by you, because they're losing touch with their siblings and their mom.
Yeah.
And, but all that to say, one of the early theories of domestication is that's why pigs and dogs have had such a long history of domestication with us humans because they're good with touch.
Yeah.
Whereas, a sheep or ruminants, they generally regard you as predators all the time.
Yeah.
And they don't like being held. They don't get that.
Yeah.
They nurse alone, ready to run, right? Sometimes, if there's twins, they'll nurse together, but they're not like the proximity of pigs and pups on a row of mama's teats. So death, when they're all next to each other, and so I've done this. I'll line up a stream of feed on the ground, a line of it, and they'll all line up just like they're nursing, and then I'll drop a pig right in the middle, and they'll go down.
Yeah.
And you get that kill when the pig drops immediately and silently. So you might get a little vocalization, but usually with me, if I hear vocalization, I might start to wonder if my shot was sufficient.
Okay.
But they're pretty silent, and usually their head will throw up. They'll throw their head upward, and kind of go stiff and fall to the side. Whereas cows, when you shoot a cow properly, it will go airborne for a half second.
Oh, wow.
Its legs will tuck up under its body so quickly that it'll be floating in midair, and then the whole thing will hit the ground.
Wow.
So that's when you got the shot. And I was going to say, too, apart from my harrowing narrative of missing pigs, I have missed pigs, and I'm okay, and I keep doing it. So it's okay. I think part of the rule of only them as shoots them as miss them is that you have to be able to forgive yourself. Sure. So you can have scruples about harvesting a pig properly, but don't have moral scruples about damning yourself too harshly, because you're never going to miss a pig if you don't try to shoot him.
Right.
And so one thing you can do, I would say, when the universe gets in the way, and it will if you shoot enough pigs, and you end up having to take that second shot.
Right.
Or feeling like you need to, the second shot might not actually be your best strategy. So, and I know it sounds brutal, but this is my experience with that pig that I shot perfectly, but it was a hollow point from a 22 WMR, so it did not execute the pig. It got up and it ran, and it turned to tail, and ran. And I was like, I can't get another shot on this. It's not going to happen. And so you put the gun down, and depending on how incapacitated the pig is from the shot, you can usually run up to it and stick it. So in an ideal world, the shot completely renders the pig immobile. They go down. You have about a 12-second window before the death throes begin, in which the pig will be moving very vigorously, depending on the breed. And you stick the pig, which is to insert the knife so as to touch the spine, just behind the jawline. And you sever the carotid and jugular arteries, which go direct to the heart, and then you get the freshet of blood, and the pig bleeds out. And I would say usually that is a more guaranteed way to drop the pig sooner and with possibly less pain than successive unsuccessful shots.
That's true.
Because of that rule I mentioned earlier, the only thing harder than shooting a pig once is shooting it only twice. Because now they're a moving target with that first shot being unsuccessful. And they're angry, and they're definitely not going to face you, because the last time that happened, things did not go well. So usually, and I've done this, with a pig that is standing on all fours. You go in with the knife and you stab. It's a jab. Right to the spine on the bottom of the neck. Okay. And it'll feel like eternity, and that's just because of the nature of panic that you might be feeling. But it's actually, they bleed out pretty quick. Yeah. And they'll drop and they pass out. Okay. And mostly, it's a mess either way you cut it, but mostly, no pun intended, I think that is less painful than the second shot. The third shot. Yes. Maybe you drop them with the fourth. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I would do in the case of a miss. Okay. Well, on that note, because you reminded me of a quote. You actually said a forward version of it earlier in this episode. But it's been helping me in all areas of my life, and I think you can definitely apply to what you're talking about right now. And it's a quote I came across, and I'm actually memorizing it with our sons right now, because I just want to instill this principle in them for anything that they're doing in life. And it comes from Teddy Roosevelt. And you can look it up. You might even know it. It's new to me. Pretty popular. It's new to me, but I think you might have come across it already. But it's The Man in the Arena. And I'll go ahead and read it. It's from a speech of his. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither knew victory nor defeat. Wow. Isn't that amazing? He's a man of letters.
I know, yeah. I don't know if there's a place that it could apply more than
pig killing.
Pig killing.
Yeah, and it reminds me of John Milton and Samson Agonistes, which is this great epic poem. Or it's kind of in the style of a Greek play. Okay. Even though Milton was clearly, he's a British Renaissance author, late Renaissance. But he has this line on the voice of Samson, I believe. And I only remember the principle of it, not the exact quote. But it is easier, you can choose easy bondage or strenuous liberty. Mm. And the easy thing is always to do nothing. And the hardest thing is to actually liberate yourself. And it's interesting because I think our notion of freedom, when we confuse it with license, it's like, well, doing what you want to do is easy. And it's like, yeah, that's a very limited view of what freedom actually is. And it's actually quite strenuous. But because you're actually in the arena.
Yeah.
And you're daring greatly.
And you're honing yourself through mistakes. But then that actually opens you up to excellence.
It does.
It's sharpening you
through
those mistakes, through those. I mean, not that when you make a mistake, it's you don't want to stay there, but that is precisely how you get better.
Yeah, and I think that if we buffer ourselves too much, and this is why I've always, or part of the reason, something like that, why I've always started with the most rudimentary tool in anything we've endeavored.
That's true, yeah.
Whatever it might be, and you make that the fundamental tool of your process. And for me, it's a sharp knife. Like, there's nothing more rudimentary than a sharp knife. And I eschew a bandsaw, and these mechanized means. And even when I harvest wood and stuff, I've been through that journey. I still split by hand. But there's something about buffering yourself with too much ease that dulls your humanity a little bit.
Yeah.
It dulls the edge of humanity. Whereas it's amazing but in our modern world, you actually have to impose this limitation on yourself as something artificial. Like, you have to create an artifice of limitation, because at least in our extraordinarily prosperous society, the limitation isn't real. It's an artifice. It's a conviction rather than a impoverishment.
Yeah.
And so when you take that path in some of these things, it sharpens you, and it's harder. It's not easier.
Yeah.
And you make more mistakes.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And for me, it only elevates my view of the pigs, because when you take on the burden of killing any animal, any livestock, you are taking on the possibility of making it painful, And I even tell people, like, you can kill pigs in your backyard. It's not easy, but you can do it.
Right.
You're up to it.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah.
And it's an encouraging thing, but I don't want to give the impression that it's it's easy.
Well,
bondage is easy.
I know, right? And I think that's something I wanted to say too.
But it is simple.
Yeah. You just don't want to. This is precisely the place to leave the cowboy behind, right? Like, some things you can just cowboy up and muddle your way through it, and certainly you do actually want to just start doing this if it's something you want to do. But the attitude, I don't know. It's not a place. It's a place a little bit for solemnity. Yeah. And not just cowboyishness.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And I always draw a distinction. Like, for me, it's not casual, right?
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I feel like the enmity of solemnity is it's not like giddiness or happiness. It is.
It's a sacrifice.
It's callousness and it's casualness.
Okay. Yeah.
It's sweatpants.
That's right.
Whereas solemnity itself is merry.
Okay.
In fact, a real solemnity is so joyful that it's so much bigger than you that it evokes a joy that can be as strong as sorrow.
That's true.
Right? Yeah. Not to get way too philosophical about this, but it
can be painful.
That's a little bit of it, And so all of that to say, like, when we slaughter a pig, I definitely think that a whiskey toast beforehand is appropriate. But just shooting a pig in the head in the general sense is not. That won't quite cut it, at least for me. Because here's the thing. Especially when you learn how to do this, you are accepting the possibility that the first animals you kill, and again, this could be pigs or anything, are going to be sacrifices to your lack of skill, which means some of them are going to suffer first. while you're learning your technique,
Yeah.
while you're getting better at it. And rather than try not to think about that or ignore it or take upon yourself the far too high standard of doing it perfectly the first time and every single time thereafter, you just need to accept that as a matter of humility. That I'm daring this, so I am daring the error. You know, I dare to make error.
Yeah.
And if anything, that should give you a higher regard for the value of your animals, you know.
Yeah.
Because there is a way in which they are participating in your life, not totally against their will.
Yeah.
Right? You've negotiated with them. In the case of pigs, like, I'm going to feed you inside your electrified fence, and the water's going to go in there too, and you're going to be happy, and you're going to thrive your whole life. And so they are participating insofar as they are able. They are actually willing accomplices to their own death in that way. Insofar as they're capable of that,
Sure.
you know? And I think it is your responsibility as a steward of the life of that animal to have that due regard for its nature.
Yeah.
So that when the death comes, or even during its whole life, the rule is not coercion. I'm going to force this round peg into a square hole. I'm going to force this pig into a protein production unit, and then I'm going to take its life. You know, it is actually a negotiation, a relationship,
That's a good way of putting
which
it.
presumes a little bit, or at least it confers some essential agency to the animal that you are taking, and in that sense, you might be able to say that the animal is giving its life as much as you're taking it.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that is
As much as they're able.
that is a noble thing. And I think that is not the case if you're forcing the pig, you know, and this is why I like the gun and the rifle. This is just the way it works in my philosophy is I don't want to coerce the pig. And I understand, you know, we have to transport pigs to get USDA slaughter, and that, you know, we have to pick our battles. If you're going to raise pigs well at all and provide people with good meat at all, that's part of it. And of course, you do your best to transport, right? You put the trailer in there the night before, and then you feed them breakfast in, and it's very low-key, and they store it in. But if you can, you know, and again, for the backyard slaughter, I like the gun rather than the captive bolt because I don't have to coerce the pig. I don't have to force it against its nature into a tight area so it'll hold still, so I can place a cold steel object on its forehead, which it's not really going to be that into. I like to be able to stand outside its fence so that its death is uncoerced right up to the end.
Yeah.
It is drinking water, lights out, you know. Or something like that. And I think if we can aspire to that, then we can at least make a pig an icon of self-gift, which, I don't know, that's like the highest thing any terrestrial life form can aspire to.
Yeah.
Is the self-oblation, the giving
Right.
of self.
Yeah. Well, I think one way, and to give another illustration of this kind of solemnity, I have another quote. This is like the episode of quotes. I'm sorry. Well, this quote comes from actually the pig slaughter e-chapter that you wrote that's inside membership.
Yeah.
So I'll start with it's a quote within a quote, right? So your little paragraph leading into, but to bring in another outdated historical narrative.
Yeah.
This John Howard figure that really influenced you from the very beginning and kind of helped define your approach when you approach the pig pen with a gun. So this is Brandon's writing here. This meticulous self-possession is epitomized by John Howard, a pig sticker in England at the end of the 19th century, before pigs were dispatched with guns. He could stick a pig in the most, quote, gentlemanly sort of way, not because he was a show-off, but because not even killing a pig with only a knife could cause him to forget his manners and soil his good trousers. I commend his spirit to you. And here's the beginning of the quote from this book. And do you know what book this comes from?
Yes, it's The English Pig.
No,
I think.
I
And,
think that makes sense.
Andrew Plotsky found this book and used it
Okay.
as a resource for the Anatomy of Thrift videos.
Right.
And I quickly stole it from his stack and read it, probably when he was living with us. And
Yeah.
what it is a compilation of actual accounts of people who saw peasant pig harvesting.
Uh-huh.
I think it's called The Pig in England.
Oh,
The Pig in England.
okay.
We could do a show note thing on that one.
Yeah.
But
Do you know the author of that?
I can't remember.
Okay, we'll look it
It's
up.
awesome, but it's an anthology. It's a compilation of eyewitness accounts of people growing up in peasant towns in England and reporting what they saw.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a little anecdote. John Howard, the butcher, would be called in. A supply of wheat straw brought home, the copper filled with water, and the fire lit. John was a very useful man in the village, a good singer and cricketer. He mended our clocks and watches and killed the pigs. And he did those things and others, all in the most gentlemanly sort of way. With a clumsy, rough butcher, there would be men shouting and a pig squealing for no end of time so that all the village would know what was going on. And the boys would come from all directions to see the gory spectacle. But John was an artist at his job. Of course, he could not do it without a squeal, but it was not prolonged, and there was no shouting. With his rope and slip knot all ready, he would go into the sty. He'd talk to the pig and stroke him till they were on good terms, for pigs love being rubbed. Very gently, John would dangle the noose by the pig's nose, and before you could say Jack Robinson, the rope was in the pig's mouth. The sty door would be opened, and the pig would walk out, John by his side, and they'd quietly walk up the garden path, and John would steer him into the yard toward the hovel and drain. There he slipped the rope over a nail on the beam, then pulled till he raised the pig's head. The rope was given an extra turn round the nail and given to me to hold. Father was at the other end holding the pig's tail. John put a wad of straw on the ground and knelt on it, knife in hand. The pig gave a gasp, and a stream of blood trickled down toward the drain. Soon it was all over. The pig flopped over and died.
It's poetry. Brilliant.
He didn't even mess his trousers.
He was an artist at his job, to be sure.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's still a technique that's used today by vets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if they come to do like an ultrasound to preg check a sow or anything, they will use, and I think they call it a snare. I can't quite remember, but I've talked to vets about this technique where you actually do slip a rope around the pig's upper snout, so not around its jaw, just around its snout.
Okay.
And what that triggers in them for some reason is they sit back. They just kind of pull back on you. They don't really thrash about side to side and get all crazy, especially if you get on good terms, as John Howard would.
Right.
But they sit back, which means they're kind of still, and they are pulling a little bit, but it makes them very still, and veterinary surgeons can work with them in that state with a fully conscious 600-pound sow, whatever it may be. And so it's so cool. John Howard knew this method.
Yeah.
And he would achieve that calmness, that he would keep the peace by the use of that noose around the top of the pig's snout. And then no stunning, just bleed the pig out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, cricket.
Wow. No
singing,
stunning, because you do
flocks.
see pictures from the Middle Ages of men, pig killers, and they're like standing over the body of the pig with a massive, a big hammer.
Or an axe.
An axe. But the blunt, they wouldn't use the sharp end of the axe. They would use the
pole.
Right. And they would just hit it, I'm hoping, once.
Yeah.
And that would do what a gun does nowadays.
Yeah.
I would guess. Break the skull and...
And that could technically be done with the same method. So, like
Right.
Mr. Howard here, you could noose the front of the nose, secure it to something, so that the pig is back. And then if you do, strike the pig with a pole of an axe, nice and heavy, you know. And it is 2.5 to 3 inches above the level of the eyes.
Yeah.
It will have the same effect. I mean,
Yeah.
So what I see when I shoot a pig in the brain properly, and the front legs go stiff, and the pig drops to the side, you're distracting me, Therese.
She's happy.
Smile at your dad. But it goes to the side. completely stunned, lights out.
Yeah.
And also brain scrambled by the bullet. A pig rightly struck with the pole of an axe, it will do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And it gives you that window to
Okay.
stick the heart.
I
And
don't recommend doing it, though. I've seen a couple of people.
Yes, you
where
can
they
mess
were-
it up.
They were frightened of guns, so they did it this way with like a little regular hand hammer, and
Oh, yeah.
it was I didn't see it, but
Maybe I've expunged that from my memory
it
also.
traumatized them, and it obviously traumatized me enough to remember that. But
Yeah.
it's a skill unto itself. I think there's a
It
reason
is.
why-
And I do have to say that if you are going to, out of necessity or whatever reason, take that more, shall we say, direct means of killing a pig, unmediated by a bullet, lard pigs are much easier to handle. So
That's true.
Which,
right.
you would deduce that. And if you think about it for a second, like lean pigs they grow quickly, high protein diet, and not a lot of fat, even at maturity. They are athletes. You can see muscle tone. They're buff, they're wide stance, which means they are athletic.
Yeah.
And which means that their death throes are going to be significantly more drastic than a less athletic lard pig. So lard pigs are so much more handleable. And you can even find, accounts of pig killing whereby they lead the pig very like a dog, like John Howard did. And he was dealing in those days with what we would consider lard pigs.
Right.
Not very athletic. Sometimes 60% of their body mass is fat.
Yeah.
Back fat and leaf fat. And that's why they raise those pigs. We can talk about that some other time for the fat.
Yeah.
But they are easier to handle.
Yeah.
They just don't have that intensity of resistance.
They're friendly
And so
enough to let you pet them, right?
They are.
Which-
and even when they resist as much as possible, they can't resist as much as a lean, mean, meat-producing machine. And so they would have a pig-killing table, a trestle, that was lower to the ground, like maybe knee height. And they would very frequently hog tie a pig. And, back in the day when you're killing the village pig, John Howard did have help. The whole household would help. There'd be a couple of men, and you could lift the pig onto the table
Right.
with its feet tied. And the pig would lay on its side, and you could stick the pig.
Yeah.
And it can be done with relative calmness. Again, you would have to get good at it.
Yeah.
But it can be done, and I can't imagine doing that with one of our modern lean meat producing machines.
Yeah.
They're just too athletic. They're
different beast.
so powerful. And I know for a fact, actually, I was going to say that I theorized, but then I remembered that I actually know this, that it's real.
Okay.
That, let's see, what is it? Okay, I'm remembering. There's these cells in the brain, and you see this exhibited in lard pigs. It's not just their lack of athleticism that makes them easier to handle. They are actually more docile.
Okay.
And that's because they maintain traits that are so radically different from their wild ancestors. So lop ears,
Right.
for example,
Right.
spots, and lots of fat are characteristics of domesticity.
Okay.
Ain't nothing in the wild except for cheetahs and leopards and jaguars
Yeah.
have spots, right? That's like humans. We like spots. They're cute. And so we put them on cows and
Interesting.
rabbits and pigs.
Sure.
Or something. And it is I can't remember it, but it's really
It
interesting.
helps. It furthers their domesticity.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's also in relation to ear size. So, and this goes for
That's
rabbits
right.
and dogs and pigs. Lop ears
Okay.
usually indicate a more docile temperament. Spots,
Does that apply to humans?
larger size. These are all examples of domesticity that also, why do some pigs have lop ears? Like, that's ridiculous. Why do dogs? Wolves don't. Where do they come from?
Sure, yeah.
And those are the traits that are inherently linked to the same growth factor, cellular doodly bobs, that determine the size of the adrenal gland.
Oh, that's right.
So a smaller adrenal gland means the pig has less capacity for freak altitude. They're
Anxiety.
just chill.
Yeah.
And that's why I like these large blacks. It's the same thing. Like, I know we've talked about harvesting pigs. If you're killing 4 in a day, picking the least dominant pig to kill first and leaving the most dominant till the end. I never even have to think about that with old spots.
Yeah.
They just have a lesser capacity to freak out. And that's been my experience. And then I read about this somewhere that, no, actually they do have smaller adrenal glands. And it's linked to the fact that they've got spots in the loppy ears and a short snout. That's the other thing. So you think of dogs like a pug. Oh my gosh. Or, you know, something with a short snout. All wolves have very long snouts, you know, predecessors of dogs. And so it's that short snout, that skull shape, lop ears, and spots are determined by the same thing that dilates the size of the adrenal gland as the animal grows.
Interesting.
It's linked to amicability. They're just more docile. That's killing.
That's pig killing.
Is that pig killing?
That's pig killing.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually just the killing. We didn't really do dehairing or evisceration or anything like that. And there was a lot of philosophy in there.
Yeah.
We barely even got into sticking.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's save all that for another episode because this is a standalone, topic.
Yeah.
And there's even more we could say, but pig killing itself is an art unto its own.
Yeah.
And whole feast days have been built around this event. Celebrations and seasons in a culture. So much culture has been built upon this event.
Yeah. And that, even in Spain, of course, is like the epitome of high pig culture, right? They even have like the running of the pigs in northern Spain in certain towns to commemorate the annual slaughter.
Wow.
Or the sacrificio.
Okay.
They call it the sacrifice, the pig's sacrifice, you know. So it's much more than just a biological extinguishing, of life for people.
Oh, right.
It's the beginning of winter survival.
True, right.
And the act itself is serious, and it's difficult, but it's also extremely joyful at the same time.
It is. So much hangs in the balance of that moment. It's the beginning of, many dishes.
Yeah.
Blood sausage and pâtés. Right when you kill, it's like, got the blood, go.
Yeah.
It's go time, right? And so with those dishes, of course, you get camaraderie and community and worship and everything that civilization is built on in so many ways. And it's funny, even our kids can feel that. It's not just a societal thing we're imposing, I think, because we've watched our kids react to the pig kill. And they each have their own way of reacting, but they feel the weight of that moment. And sometimes they can't stop talking, even in the middle of it.
That's our verbose children.
Right. Or they're just mesmerized, or they might cry. But it's not traumatic because they look forward to it the next time.
They do.
They're not scared of it. It's but they feel maybe the solemnity of it, or...
Yeah, and I think it's also a good, as someone with small children who kills animals all the time in front of them, I think it is a good exercise in parental restraint. To remember to not dictate how your children ought to feel about a thing.
That's a good point.
Which is tricky because usually, they are, in their youth, they're so raw, they're so unbeguiled, they just... So I tend to think that usually their emotional reaction to a thing, if it's going to be anything, it's going to be authentic.
True.
And, that's something that we hone so that they can learn how to live with people and learn morality. But there's also a sense, because I get asked a lot, what do you do with your kids when pig slaughter? Do you let them see? Do you let them watch? Should I let my 8-year-old come out when you kill the pig? And I always think, yes, absolutely. But that's only half of it. Like, what really matters, I think, is the aftermath of the pig kill.
Yeah.
And it does take some restraint as a parent to not want to run up and like extinguish any negative feelings that your child may have, which is an essential parental impulse. Like, I don't want them to be unduly sad or emotionally stressed out. You want to protect your kids from experiences in pain as a natural impulse. But when they are sad at a pig slaughter, don't overspeak it out of existence. Just you can let them be sad. Be sad with them, because that's an appropriate reaction to death. That is a well-rounded, good human response.
Yeah.
And so I to this day, I have to hold my tongue. I'm like, oh, Mary, it's okay. It's food. It's like, just shut up for a second.
Yeah, right.
We can be with each other.
Yeah.
And then I think what is so much more valuable to a child is not the discursive analysis that you put on it afterwards.
Sure.
Even though that has its place, particularly when they get older, you want to try to articulate the value of raising and growing food and taking on the responsibility of the kill insofar as you're able and when you can, and what all of that means. But they will learn that life goes on after the kill.
Yeah.
And that's a good lesson.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say that. They will notice that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that is a much more effective lesson that they will
this
take
applies
away.
to any area of when you're dealing with kids. I mean, I homeschool our kids, so but if you truly believe that this is a human act, then you should also allow the freedom of your kids within that act too. Honoring the nature of the pig in its own way, and then you were talking about easy bondage and strenuous liberty. It is harder to withhold yourself when you're educating your children to not over-educate. Just let them see, because that's part of their education. And then if they're paying attention, then they will also see what comes after the pig killing.
And they are paying attention.
Yeah.
All the time.
Dun, dun, dun.
Everything.
Yeah. No, but they'll see your excitement and maybe a proper amount of nervousness beforehand, and then but then afterward they see the celebration that's also happening, and then they'll learn to connect the two.
Yeah.
And kids react so much more authentically than we adults do, even.
They do. It's usually the adults that have the problem.
We just want to...
And here's the problem with the adults having the problem, is that they like it, and I get it. I still have to stifle this in myself. They end up, if they over-verbalize after the kill, they end up just foisting their problems on the kid.
Yeah.
Unintentionally.
Yeah.
But in assuming that the death itself has to be apologized for.
Right.
And explained away so that it's not even regarded as a sad thing.
Yeah.
They are assuming that the child has an overly simplistic view of what just happened. And it's a wrong one.
Yeah.
Don't explain away the pain.
Right. We in our efforts to protect them,
Yeah.
we end up, instead of equipping them
Yeah.
and strengthening them, we're just dulling them.
A little bit.
And we can, if we're not careful.
Yeah. Because the fact is, even after all of our best efforts and good strategy with, picking a still moment or keeping the peace, keeping the calm, shooting from outside the fence, because the moment you step in there, the excitement goes up a little bit. Not nervousness, just excitement. And all of these strategies, death hurts every time.
Yeah.
And that is part of the burden of being someone who eats meat. That is the burden that you assume. Is to inflict the pain of death, reduced as much as you can possibly manage, and as part of a larger negotiation and a deal, sometimes between two whole species. You reduce it as much as you can, but it always hurts.
And of course, the life that results from that death, we believe, is ultimately better and more abundant than had that death not happened at all.
Well, yes, and that's where the responsibility comes in, to vindicate the death.
Exactly.
And this, I just completely steal this from Hugh Fernley Whittingstall whenever I think about it, who's of the River Cottage, and we've talked about him before, but he's just so eloquent when he speaks of this. And he says that there could be, can you imagine, a more great blasphemy or profanation or indignity done to that animal than to serve its flesh and for it to not taste good. Right? The onus is on you to make it taste well as part of the vindication of that self-gift, of that offering. And how horrible it would be to be like, oh, this is rubbish. All that work and this is bland and burnt. That is poor thanks for the gift of life from that creature.
Yeah. We'll end there.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me, Brandon, and talking about this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that was nice.
It's a deep topic, and it's a fun topic that we can keep returning to as well. And maybe next time we'll situate it within the context of the harvest day itself.
Yeah.
But I like that we spent so much time here on the pig kill alone.
That was a lot of time. Yeah, it's one of those things that I've been doing for 10 years, and I finally kind of know it from many different perspectives. So it's really easy to talk about.
Yeah.
A lot. I hope not too much.
Yeah. Well, and you can also consider coming to our family pig this fall. If you've been thinking about coming to a class for a while, this might be the year, and you can really understand what we're talking about by seeing it and experiencing it yourself. And I mean, we put the bowl in your hand, and you're collecting that blood. You're stirring it yourself. Mm-hmm. It's quite a visceral experience, and yeah. So thanks again so much, everyone, and we'll see you again. A little tail end fun thing here is this is the first podcast that will be fully edited by a professional.
Woohoo!
Yay! So we are hoping to really start pumping these out starting this month. So
yeah.
Anyway, that's another exciting thing.
So greater frequency. Did we do one a week ago, or has it been 2 weeks?
It's been several weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
we're due.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're trying to outsource some of the things that prevent us from doing more. That's right. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because we can sit down and talk about it if we don't have to also be the producers, the editors, the publishers, and the dispersers on the social media networkers.
There's people that can do all that better than us anyway.
Yes.
Like way better.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll keep in touch, and hopefully we'll get another one of these out to you in 1 week.
And if you like the podcast, do go to Patreon,
and
you can help us to the end of outsourcing some of the management and editing of these things by donating there, and that really does tangibly help us sit down and just do podcasts and make more videos. It really is a goal to. We're trying to create a bit of a team.
Yeah.
So that we can focus on creation.
Yeah.
And not just production and management and tech and all of that stuff.
So maybe we can get them excited to go to Patreon by telling them we did a film day, like a trial film day.
Yeah.
Already with a great filmmaker that just happens to live on Vashon.
Yeah.
And he's filmed for some big players in the food world. So those will actually be out on YouTube very soon as well.
Cool.
This fall. So
very excited.
We're excited to start getting this stuff out to you guys. Thanks so much already for your support and your audience, and being part of the Meatsmith community in all the various manifestations that we have. That we just want to thank you so much for allowing us to do this. It's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Have a happy harvest.
Peace be with you.